Good morning. My name is Rabbi Chaim Belyak, and I'm pleased to welcome you to the renewal of our program known as Freighted Legacies. It's an opportunity for those of us, both in the English-speaking world and in the Polish world, to share a commonality that emerges both from our historical memory but also from our contemporary experience. Today, we're going to have an opportunity to hear about the journey of a father-son pair. Very pleased to welcome Igor and Ilan Mikhaylov, who I've known for many years, and I'll tell you more about them in a moment. But first, I'm pleased to introduce three of my colleagues, who are part of the Jewish community in Poland. Marek Yusowski, who will be interpreting on the Polish channel, and Marzena Szymanska, who will be spelling him. And this is an opportunity for us to direct you to the bottom of your screen to the globe that says interpretation, and you should now choose either the English or the Polish language so that you can hear the track that is most appropriate for you. We'll also be greeted, first of all, by Dominika Zakraszewska. And Dominika is in a new role for her life and for us. She continues to be involved with Progressive Jewish Life through the European Union for Progressive Judaism and the communities of Beit Warszawa in Poland. She continues as a professor, but now she has taken a little bit of a sabbatical because she has a new member of the family, and it's our first opportunity to wish her a mazel tov on the birth of Victoria. Artur and Dominika are now parents, and they're enjoying the first months of their daughter's life, and we wish them well. I also have the opportunity to welcome Dominika as a Hebrew Union College graduate. She has just completed, in addition to all of her academic chevrons, she's completed a master's degree in nonprofit management, and it's good to welcome you. Dominika, if you just say a word to our audience, and I'll introduce our speakers right after.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Chaim. It's a pleasure to be here again with everybody. I'm glad that Freighted Legacies series continue. And also, it's really exciting to undertake all those new roles and new opportunities that I am starting to be involved with right now. So thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to the new challenges and opportunities that are coming.
Thank you. And now let me briefly introduce Igor and Ilan. Igor, I've known for many years, who was a student along with wife Rebecca in an introduction to Judaism class many years ago. And we've been in touch through the years as friends. And it was my privilege earlier this year to attend the Bar Mitzvah of their son Ilan, who was sitting with Igor. The two of them are going to tell us about their trip, a father-son journey to Poland. And I think you will discover as the two of them describe what brought them to the trip, the events that occurred, or the important places they saw, a very profound new model of thinking about what it means to be in Poland, especially in the context now of the fact that Poland has been the host for so many Ukrainian refugees. And so privileged to welcome Igor and Ilan and have them speak for about 45 minutes, and then we will have the opportunity for questions. So Igor and Ilan, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, dzień dobry, erev tov, whichever content you find yourself on. And also wanted to wish everybody, all the families out here that are celebrating Happy Father's Day. I know it's an American, North American tradition, but if you are celebrating it anyways, Happy Father's Day. So this is our trip, Ilan and I, as most of the American parents or normal American parents who take their kids on spring break to warmer spots. I decided to take Ilan on a spring break to Warsaw, and you can welcome and come and join us on our journey as we go through this. So just to give a little bit of introduction, I have been born in Ukraine during the times of course, the Soviet Union, as you can tell from my age. My family comes from the central part of Ukraine, both sides, father's and mother's side. I myself and my parents were born in the capital city in Kyiv. My mother's side comes from the region that is now, all of that region used to be called Podolia, but now it's the Khmelnytsky Oblast. And my father's side mostly from Zhytomyr and Korczak. So as you can see, that central region in Ukraine that once kind of belonged to Polish Commonwealth, Lithuanian Commonwealth, Ukrainian, Soviet, independent Ukraine, and so forth and so on. Growing up in Ukraine, I have some friends. I met Olga Luchuk, and she has been my friend for over 30 years. This whole trip starts about a year ago as the war rages on. Her husband, who you can see in the bottom picture, finds himself on the front lines, and they communicate to United States that they're in need of help, both physical, financial. And my first trip to Warsaw found myself bringing in bulletproof vests. As Olga and her daughter moved across to get out of harm's way into Poland, they stayed in Warsaw. I visited them in Warsaw. We moved equipment out into Ukraine so that it can make it to the front lines. And then Rabbi Chaim knew that I was in Warsaw and contacted me, and that's how I got connected with the Beit Polska organization, and met Marek and met Jonathan. And we kind of started at those early days, started helping with suitcases of hope. I believe that was that's the name. And that was the first time that I was brought to Poland. Then Ilan, as you can see in his Bar Mitzvah pictures, saw what I was doing, and Ilan decided to collect the money for the Janusz Korczak fund. And for his Bar Mitzvah gift, we went on this spring break trip. And of course, we had to do a little bit more fun things than just the cultural. Ilan is an avid soccer player, so we got to see a soccer game, Legia Częstochowa versus Częstochowa. And in fact, I want to point out one thing. There is a player on Częstochowa. His name is Ben Letterman, and Ilan, and he comes from the United States. He actually comes from Los Angeles area. And Ilan's coach is the same as the coach of Ben, who's now playing in Częstochowa. So we'll see what the future will hold. Our first day, as we kind of getting our bearings in this new country, this new city, and trying to show Ilan a little bit, we find ourselves walking through the old town of Poland. And while walking through it, one of the things is you always see anywhere, any buildings, any flags, any cars, everyone who is anyone is showing support for Ukraine, showing Polish brotherly and sisterly love for their neighbor. and helping as much as they can, and doing that. Yeah, you can observe some of the pictures of Ilan, some of the pictures of us taking around, and you'll see the Barbican in the back, and the Polish royal castle. A little bit more of the pictures of Old Town and the main square, symbol of Warsaw, the mermaid, showing the importance of the waterways of the Polish Commonwealth and the Polish Republic, and learning a little bit about the history of it. The next day, after learning a little bit about Warsaw itself, and of course the city that was ravaged by war and then destroyed by those horrific acts, and rebuilt as Phoenix from the ashes, we took a trip now down the more of that war heritage and the heritage that ravaged the city, especially the Warsaw Ghetto. And we started out just outside of the Palace of Culture. The ghetto, of course, was quite large, and then as it was getting liquidated, it became smaller and smaller and smaller. The earlier on area incorporated these neighborhoods, and we found the monument to Janusz Korczak, which was the fund that Ilan donated, raised the money to donate to the Spynka daycares, and the memory of Dr. Korczak and the orphanage and the children that he was protecting and escorting, of course, to the concentration camp. Next, you can see us getting into the meat, into the heart of the Warsaw Ghetto. This is the Polish Museum. Now, a lot of the Jewish history of Europe is overshadowed and understandably by the Holocaust, and the Holocaust frames a lot of that mindset of what the Jews are and the victims of those tragic events. But the Polish Museum is, in fact, celebrates, I don't know, close to 1,000 years of Jewish history in Poland. The word Polin, as we learned, means the place of rest, right? That's what the Jews actually called that land that was further out of the Germanic states when they were settling. And this beautiful museum that's everyone should visit who visits Warsaw. Definitely defines and describes it. I wanted to bring attention to the left side. This is a monument to the Warsaw Ghetto fighters, the hero of the Warsaw Ghetto that resisted the Nazis 80 years ago in 1943. And this monument has been built and dedicated to them shortly after rebuilding of the city. So this is 1948. This monument has stood there, showing the Warsaw Ghetto fighters there. Within the museum itself, there was a very interesting exhibit, and we had to make a slide on it. We had to take pictures of it, and we had to show you about it. It's on Andrzej Folk, a Polish artist who decided to paint and see how can he interpret for the people what is actually happening in Ukraine, the horrors of the war. As it's been a year, it's been a little bit over a year, and the horrific news that are coming out and from there, and the genocidal war, the maniacal war, the genocidal war that's absolutely beyond anyone's understanding. As you can probably recognize some of these pictures as on the bottom it's Goya, right, the Saturn eating his children, or on the right it's Picasso's Guernica, comparing it to the Spanish the Spanish Revolution that was going on, and how the entire world was actually fighting that Spanish fascism, and how now the entire world is gathering in Ukraine as volunteers, battalions, volunteers, brigades, and any volunteering work they can to make sure that that Ukraine prevails in this event. One of the things is we're kind of walking through this. I want to know Ilan's opinion. What do you think of these paintings? What are your thoughts about some of these situations?
Well, looking at the photos, you see the bears, and it really, I think the artist is really trying to show really the destruction and the death and the war crimes, even, and it's attacking, and how like deadly and how dangerous this is. And if you see the Ukrainian flag with the skulls, and you just see these bears, and the bottom left too, the bears just attacking, just destroying it. It just really shows the destruction and amount of chaos and carnage that war really brings. And it's altogether very almost disturbing to actually look at. You see these images.
Yeah, it is. It's very brutal. It's very genocidal, and very predatory. After the museum, we walked around and wanted to bring some of the sites that are still in existence in the Warsaw Ghetto and highlight them. This is Ulica Street, Mila 18, where the Jewish Combat Organization, the ZOB, was headquartered. The fighters of the ZOB, as they were resisting, did die within the building. They were buried within the building. After the war, with the excavation, the bodies of the fighters still remain within the mounds of the building itself. Right now, it is a memorial. As you can see, there is a placement, a rock, a maseva that's placed on top of the building. Some of the other sides are the Umschlagplatz, the place where the place of gathering where the Jewish residents of the ghetto were gathered and were moved out into concentration camps, being their final final place in Warsaw before they get moved out. Some of the scenes from the Pariak prison, the Gestapo-run prison in Warsaw, and on the bottom you see the Renewal archives that were buried in 3 different spots within the city itself, for the purpose of showing the world, or for the purpose as treasures for the world to see and uncover and read the truth about what actually happened in the ghetto versus what Nazi propaganda was showing. As Ilan and I walked through this, one of the things I wanted to introduce, and I apologize, there's another character in our story, and she does appear in the previous slides. Her name is Irina, and she is a daughter of Olga, and she lives in Warsaw, and she's a student in Warsaw. And she's also a Ukrainian that has escaped during the war, and she accompanied us. And you will see actually multiple pictures of her throughout the trip. And just wanted to, if she's listening, wanted to say hello to Irina. Coming back to the ghetto, I wanted to ask Ilan a couple of questions about it. How did he feel walking through the ghetto? What did he learn? What did he imagine? And in fact, if you could imagine our family living in this ghetto during the war.
So walking through the ghetto it's very important moment, because you're able to see what it was like during World War II. You're able to see these monuments and all these monuments. And so when I was walking through it, it was somber, and I could feel, I was almost like I was connected to it, because I was able to see the history of the Jews in Warsaw and what really happened and what really took place in this war. And so I was able to learn all these things about it, and I was able to, when we were walking through it, I was able to see all these monuments and really learn about it. And so it made me feel I was a little bit somber because I was able to see what the death and destruction that happened, but it almost made me feel I don't know what the right word is, but like I was able, I guess connect is a good word, because these people, these Jews were like us. They were like us. And so I was able to see what it was like, what they were living through. And it is hard to imagine a family like ours living in there. You don't really want anybody to go through this kind of stuff. And so imagining my family there would be very difficult. And so it's just very hard to understand what children, me, even younger, going through would experience in the ghetto. So, yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's a very important learning lesson that truly stands as a testament to what happened. After we did a couple of trips outside of Warsaw to see a little bit of the culture and seeing other cities, and of course, no trip would be complete without going to Kazimierz and traveling to Krakow and actually seeing that old, vibrant Jewish neighborhood that was absolutely historic. Contains one of the oldest Polish synagogues and one of the oldest European synagogues too, Stara Synagoga. A lot of the neighborhood, and of course Krakow has its own history and was used in the filming of Schindler's List. Spielberg pretty much shut down the entire city, and you can recognize some of the sites, and we recognize some of the sites going through the alleyway, for example, on Ulica Józefov, and other sites, as you will see. On this slide, everywhere, again, you see the Ukrainian flags. The Jewish community of Krakow, of Warsaw, of anybody feels very closely connected to the events that are happening in Ukraine. And on the bottom is a reformed, it's a temple synagogue, and you can see the sign that says welcome, Laskavo Prosima. It's basically welcoming the Jewish, not just the Jewish, all of them, Ukrainians, to that site and offering and providing help and so forth. And even the old synagogue is waving the Ukrainian flags, which is absolutely symbolic of the Jewish community feeling that connection with the Ukrainians. Museum of Galicia and the beautiful mural connecting the city of Lvov and the city of Krakow, the western and the eastern parts of Galicia, and the Jewish, vibrant Jewish lifespan that spans through that. A lot of the sites have been refurbished. For example, the Havris restaurant is a former synagogue, and going inside of it, you can see some of the murals and paintings on the walls. In one of the photographs, we stayed overnight at the hotel in Kazimierz, and that's Ilan standing on the balcony and observing the streets and walking over the streets. This neighborhood also, unlike Warsaw, the difference is that this neighborhood actually has survived. It has not seen the destruction that the Warsaw did. And here you could actually imagine the pre-war Jewish life and walk the streets and have that feeling. What do you think? What are your thoughts on the Jewish community in Krakow?
Well, the Jewish community in Krakow is a lot more profound. It's a lot more vibrant, necessarily than other places, because you're walking down the street and you see all these Jewish stores and all these Jewish, like the murals, and it was very almost comforting to see all of this Jewish revival. Yeah, and I could see our family living here pro-war, pre-war, seeing all this, all of this, living us here with all like Jewish neighbors. And
what will we do? if we lived in Kazimierz, what would we do? What jobs do you see us doing?
I mean, maybe we own like a little deli, like a restaurant or something.
Yeah, Ilan wants to own a restaurant somewhere in the center of Kazimierz and have people welcome and try our pierogies. Traveling across from Kazimierz, across the river Vistula, as you can see, Ilan posing with Josef Pilsudski's bridge in the background. You enter the site of the ghetto, and the Krakow ghetto was across the river. They took the Jews who lived in the vibrant neighborhood of Kazimierz, and they moved them across the river and contained them in this area. As you can see, there is the square, the Krakow ghetto, the chairs with the photographs of the heroes of the ghetto and the people who lived and survived in there and resisted. You see the remains of the old walls as almost as matsevas rising above the ghetto itself. And of course, the very famous Emil Warenfabrik, which was the Schindler's factory, is still there. Took that picture in front of as if you watch the movie, you'll see the exact same site as Schindler and his workers take a picture in front of it in the Spielberg's movie. And of course, Oskar Schindler saved a lot of Jews of Krakow by giving them employment at his factories and trying to hide it in his factories. So that's still a significant aspect of Krakow. What difference do you see between the vibrant pre-war Kazimierz and the ghetto just across the river?
When you're on the Kazimierz, you see all this vibrant life. You see all these Jewish symbols and life. And when you cross the river, you really see that a lot of it was really taken away, and they were forced into this kind of the ghetto, and it turns gloomy almost, and it's somber because it shows how they were taken away, how all of their everything was taken away from them, and they were put into this place that was, very, very somber, like I said, and sorrowful because of their religion. And it's very heartbreaking to see what was really taken away from them. It wasn't necessarily taken away from them because they still had it within them, but it's very hard to see.
We took a walk to kind of look a little bit of what Krakow looks like, the main city of Krakow. Visited the Wawel Castle, Rynek Główny, the center and the Stare Miasto, the old town, and very striking differences between Warsaw and Krakow. Warsaw that had all the devastation. Krakow did escape the destruction that the Warsaw had. Warsaw had multiple uprisings and two uprisings, right? The ghetto uprising, the Warsaw uprising that absolutely destroyed the city. In fact, history goes is that Warsaw, being the symbol of Polish government, was going to be destroyed by both sides of the war and annihilated. But Krakow served as the German capital, did survive. One of the things I wanted to point out within all the beautiful churches and old places, and of course the legend of the dragon in the cave, is this statue for Tadeusz Kościuszko, who was an American Revolutionary War hero, a Polish American Revolutionary War hero who fought in the revolution. Symbols of him are spread throughout both Warsaw Krakow. In fact, he gave a famous speech at the Stara Synagogue to the Jewish community, asking for their support in the fight against, at that time, the Russian Empire. Tadeusz Kościuszki fought against everything he learned in the American Revolution. He fought to resist the Russians in the late 1700s, early 1800s. Our third city in Poland that we visited was Kielce. And we have connected with Bogdan Bialik and the Jan Karski Society to visit a place on Planty 7, which is symbolic for a little bit of an almost unusual reason than every other than most of the cities in Warsaw, is that the pogroms and the horror in Poland against the Jews continued post the Holocaust, post World War II, post 1945, as the Jews are returning back and Jews are being transient to Western countries. They have found themselves again in the midst and one of the largest one was in Kielce in 1948, 3 years post World War II, where 42 Jews were killed at this site on Planty 7. Another 80 or so terribly injured, and this basically sealed the deal of the Jews in Eastern Europe. If they thought that maybe there's some return post World War II, this basically signified that it's time to go. And these events not only echoed in Poland, they echoed throughout Soviet Union too. And the Jews in Soviet Union also knew that, Eastern Europe may not be the place for them. And it kind of remained in our collective memory for a long time. So here's, you can see some of the pictures, Jan Karski on his bench, sitting and watching over Planty 7, watching over the building that Ilan took the picture in front of. We met with Bogdan. Bogdan gave us a tour. We met Piotr. Piotr took us walking around the city. Kielce also had its ghetto, as you can see, as the sinking menorah into the ground. All of that behind it, the park behind it, was the Jewish ghetto. The doors of the old synagogue that is not functioning anymore, but it still remains as a site. The Jewish cemetery that was destroyed, and as the Masevet were gathered after the war and kind of placed in a sort of a monument formation, and of course the site of the burial of the Jews who were killed during the pogrom. And those horrific days of 1948, all of that still remain in Kielce, and is serving as a symbol and a memory and a learning piece. The day after Kielce, we traveled back to Warsaw, and again you see the picture of Irina, Ilan, and Irina. We met with Jonathan and his staff, and we visited the Spynka Ukrainian daycare that Ilan collected the funds and the money for through his Bar Mitzvah. We brought gifts and toys to the kids, played with the kids, sat in on some of the lessons, participated. Ilan taught him some soccer moves. And we had a good time with the kids. What did you think of the site?
Spynka?
Yeah,
It was fun. Helping with the kids, playing with them, and it's nice to see that I was able to help them and able to help these kids.
a lot of the families that we met, a lot of the kids and a lot of the parents, not the parents, I'm sorry, the teachers. Some of the teachers are parents. Do come from various parts of Ukraine. There was a woman who came from Bakhmut. There were people who came from Kharkov. There were people coming in from the east that truly saw that ravage of war, that saw that destruction that their country has befallen. And a lot of the kids, even though a lot of the instructions do happen in Ukrainian, Ukraine has both languages, both Russian and Ukrainian languages, and the two languages do flourish. A lot of the kids do speak Russian, and a lot of the teachers do speak Russian, and they speak both languages to the kids, and because that's what they understand. That's the culture of the region. Kind of putting away all those myths that the Russian language is being faded out in Ukraine. It's pretty vibrant. It's seen in its new generation. The new generation speaks it, and hopefully they will all learn Ukrainian. But with time, right? We're not hurrying time. One of the significant events to us was celebrating Passover at the Babel Club with the Beit Warsaw. This day is absolutely significant. It was exactly 80-year anniversary from the 15th day of Nisan of 5703 to 15th day of Nisan 5783. 80 years in 1943, of course, on the day of Passover, during the Passover Seder. During that time, the Jews rose against the Nazis, and which was known as the Warsaw Ghetto uprising began, that lasted for about a month. Going back to Warsaw and celebrating it on the outskirts of the ghetto, not far from the Synagoga Nozikov, and being with the Jewish community, eating matzah openly, was a treat, was an absolute treat. Listening to Rabbi Kirschenbaum's speech in Poland. As you can see, there's two more characters that have joined on our trip. So this is Olga, and this is Jonathan, and they're involved in a very important debate. Of course, as the Jews do all the time, probably asking each other the four questions. That's what I assume. So Jonathan is, of course, who's kind of running the daycares and overseeing the fund, and Olga is my childhood friend who now lives and works in Warsaw, and Ilan with them. Thank you, Hania, for inviting us and having us participate in this event. It was very significant to us. What do you think, Ilan? How do you feel celebrating this significant Jewish holiday of moving from slavery into freedom on the 80th anniversary of Warsaw?
I felt that, like you said, it's very significant because it's the 80-year anniversary of the Warsaw Uprising, which was very important in the history of Warsaw, because and it really felt like being led to freedom almost again, because the Warsaw Uprising, being able to connect of how you're leaving and you're uprising against the clutches, and it's very comforting because you're celebrating this historic moment on its anniversary. And I can almost imagine, like 80 years ago, the Jewish people celebrating Passover in the ghetto secretly. And I think they had something to celebrate, which was hope. They were able to celebrate hope of what was to come, what was next, being able to leave like the uprising. So it's very historic and significant to be able to celebrate Passover in the Warsaw Ghetto on its 80th anniversary.
And remembering Mordechai Anilevich as a modern day Moses. And of course, there's this kind of echoes the struggles that are happening in Ukraine as the modern Moses Zelensky is trying to is trying to combat with the Pharaoh, and connecting, and again connecting with the people of Warsaw, the Jewish people of Ukraine, and Jewish people all over the world in this holiday, and hoping for the next year to celebrate in freedom in Jerusalem. This brings us to our last slide, and kind of highlights all the friends in Poland that we met along the way, and thanking all the people that made this possible, that have met with us and guided us through this tour, and showed us around. None of this would be possible without them. And of course, the very first thanks is for Chaim for allowing us to connect with this organization, with the Beit Polska. Big thanks to Hania for allowing us to be connected with Beit Polska organization. And we'll go through all the pictures. Olga and Irina, the Ukrainians who are living in Warsaw, who have escaped the war. The picture next to it is Jacek. He's from the Jan Karski Society, which that same building, it's so significant that same building on Planty 7 is now houses the Ukrainian refugees. The place where there was a terrible pogrom and the Jews were murdered post-World War II is now serving as a welcoming site to the Ukrainian refugees as they're coming through. And you can hear some of the people we connected with. In the next picture is Dominika taking in front of the statue of Chopin, walking through the summer residence of the Polish kings, giving us time and giving us history lesson of this area. Olga and Irina escaped with their dog, and that's Tejo. Tejo is being walked in Warsaw. I believe this is the monument to the partisans or something like that. That's in the Warsaw, and this is kind of a big park. Tejo's pretty happy there. You can see Bogdan, and this is the room where the Jewish, it's kind of a remodel of what the Jewish synagogue or Jewish life would be. It's one of the rooms in the Planty 7. And that's Bogdan Yalek, who runs the Karski Society. The picture on the right, past that, is Marek, myself, and Jonathan happily celebrating Passover at the Club Babel. And that's Piotr. Again, this is Piotr with the teacher in the Jewish, in the Ukrainian house within the Planty 7. Piotr is the one who took us around and showed us everywhere in Kielce and introduced that city to us. Well, with that was about a week worth of travel and trips and photographs. This kind of brings, this is the last slide of the presentation, and we can open up for questions and discussion.
First of all, Igor and Ilan, thank you very much for your presentation. And I've just written to everybody in chat. If they have questions, we'd love to receive them in chat. I just thought it would be helpful, just as a note, to say a word more about the visit to Kielce and the visit to the Spynka daycare centers. First, the visit to Kielce. We were privileged, I was privileged to be the producer on a movie called Bogdan's Journey, telling the story of Bogdan's work in Kielce, to talk about what happened July 4th, 1946, when the pogrom happened, and the attempt at historical memory in the town of Kielce. So would recommend our movie to people, Bogdan's Journey. And just another note about our friend Jonathan Mills. He is one of the founders of Beit Warszawa. And when the war began, he came back to Warsaw to see what he could do. And together with a Polish woman and a Ukrainian woman, the three of them have put together 90 centers where Ukrainian refugee children are able to hear and participate in the language of Ukraine and Russian and retain their connection. They're also learning Polish because for the time being, they're going to live in Poland. So this is a wonderful presentation that you've made. And I think we have our first question. I'm going to turn it over to Dominika, but the first question says that chat has been disabled. So there's a Q&A function as well where you can ask questions. We'll try to get both chat and Q&A working. And
should be already working.
Okay. Good. So, Dominika, I'm going to let you handle any questions.
Yes, we are still waiting for questions. We invite them in chat. And if somebody tried to write in chat before and it did not work, right now it should be already active.
We might also point out that Dominika was just in the last weeks of her pregnancy, as you can see from the picture. So since then, her baby Victoria has been born. Again, Mazel Tov to the family. We have Rabbi Elliot Baskin, if I can take this, Dominika, since I know the questioner, who is just expressing a thank you to Igor and Ilan.
Thank you.
Rabbi Elliot Baskin is one of the rabbinic mentors that is involved with our program of people who are studying Judaism for the purpose of conversion. And he'll be somebody that people will meet. So there's a question.
Yes, there is a question to Ilan. What was your favorite part of the trip?
Well, I liked walking around Poland, but I think my favorite part of the trip has to be the soccer game, just because. Well, I love soccer, but if you're talking about the Jewish part and the Polish part, I think it has to be. I did enjoy the Polin Museum. I found that was very interesting, and I did enjoy going through that and looking through the history.
Yeah, I know the question wasn't posed to me, but my favorite part of Poland was pierogies, as you can see from my pictures.
So both educational and culinary experiences. And while we are waiting for next questions, I'm actually very curious, was that anything for you, Igor, that was surprising when you came first time to Poland? Because this was not your first trip, but when you came first time a few months ago, was there anything that was very different from what your expectation or imagination was?
Absolutely, and I kind of say it to I kind of use this cliche. The very first time that we came to Warsaw, right? It was absolutely different circumstances. The country, the refugees were pouring in. The world was absolutely uncertain at that point, or a lot more uncertain than it is now. Kyiv was being prepared for an attack, and so the city itself looked like, if anybody here is familiar with the old 1942-1943 movie Casablanca, where it looks like the Rick's Cafe, where it was a lot of these refugees and a lot of these uncertainties that are kind of happening within that cafe, a lot of the deals that were going on with the people trying to smuggle equipment back and forth across the country, with everybody's trying to help and move. And the second, and so it was very, very tumultuous. In the second time that I came, it was already more settled. The life was a lot more vibrant. It wasn't as it wasn't as gloomy. It seemed that some of the refugees did find a little bit of a better footing. People found a little bit better calm. And the hotel that we stayed in actually had a lot of military. There were NATO military members. There were some Swedish, some other countries that were there, Americans. And so it did seem like there was a better handle on the situation than the first year.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Well, there is, yes, Rabbi.
Go ahead, Dominika.
There is a question actually, I think a bit more wide than the trip, which is about the refugees. And the question from Andrea White is whether refugees are still coming into Poland.
I think if you know a little bit, maybe there's also some knowledge from Dominika. If there are other people that would like to chime in. As far as I know, many people are still coming to Poland. The numbers depend on the fate of where the battles are taking place. But also a lot of people have left Poland and tried to go back to Ukraine. And there tends to be some back and forth movement as people try to return to their homes in parts of Ukraine where they can. But still there are hundreds of thousands of women and children in Poland.
And that's one of the differences that I noticed from the first year, kind of going back to that question, is that in the first year the refugees were going one way, right? They were going west. This year, what really surprised me is that the people who were in Poland and kind of settling a little bit in Poland are actually traveling back and forth, going back to, maybe picking up some stuff from their houses and bringing back and so forth. It's still, the life in those regions in Ukraine is still very uncertain, constant bombardment of the capital city. There is constant attacks on the civilian population. Apartment buildings being hit in just recently Kryvyi Rog, right? And after that, there was regions in Odessa and in Kyiv, and so the people are still afraid to live in their houses because the war is absolutely raging. And of course, with this horrific, however you want to describe it, almost terrorist-like attack on the Kakhovka Dam that flooded the Delta, the Dnieper Delta, and the Black Sea. There's really no way for them to have a normal life, especially on the eastern side of the country.
So I just thought I'd take the privilege while we have a pause and still some time to share with you that in your chat screen, we've placed information about our next Freighted Legacy program, which will feature the academic Shira Klein, who has written about the challenge of what has happened to Wikipedia, together with her co-author, Jan Grabowski. They've written an extensive study of what is going on with the 7th largest website that describes Polish-Jewish relations across a very broad front. And this is a program that will take place on a Tuesday, a different day than normal, at 9 a.m. It will not be recorded. So if people are interested in exploring the challenges to historical truth that they uncovered, I think it's important for people to plan to join at 9 a.m. on Tuesday, June 27th. Let's see if we have any other questions. If not, we want to thank Igor and Ilan. Maybe you have a final word for us, Igor or Ilan? And
I want to say that just kind of growing up in that region in Eastern Europe, and again, this is region encompassing both Poland, Ukraine, whoever you are, from Belarus, from the Baltics, and down to almost the Balkans, to the Central Europe. There is a lot to uncover in the relationship between the Jewish community and the local community. And there is a lot of it is, yes, there is a lot of anti-Semitism. There's a lot of there's also a lot of kind of happy parts and between between the many communities that live there. And so finding out, moving past the modern day history and the modern day myths about the history, and kind of understanding that ancient 1,000-year-old vibrant community is a lot more important than just concentrating on the events of the last century.
thank you,
What about
Ilan.
you, Ilan?
Well, I'm very happy that I was gracious that I was able to have this opportunity to go to Poland, and I'm very happy that everyone here is listening. Thankful that you guys are here to understand what we did and help out in the Beit Polska and support us.
Thank you.
So let me just conclude with thanking Igor and Ilan once again. I frankly pleased with what I think of as a very important model for the balance of seeing some of the modern Poland and some of the history of Jews in Poland, some of the history that existed before the destruction caused by the German invasion of Poland. And this feels like a very balanced trip that you had, Ilan, and I'm pleased that you had this opportunity. I hope that other people will think about the different kinds of experiences you had in meeting Poles, Ukrainians, fellow Jews, and this wonderful experience that you had. I just want to turn once more to thank Dominika for her help with the technical issues and with her co-hosting. I also want to note that Marek Yazowski, who's been translating, is happily enjoying his retirement from being the president of Beit Polska, and is still active with us, and we're very excited by that. And again, our thanks to Marzena for her involvement with translation. I turn to the people who are on our program to remind you that there's opportunities to support the ongoing work of Beit Polska on our website, jewishrenewal.org. There's also the opportunity to support the work with Ukrainian refugees through the Onkarsky Childcare that supports Spynka, the name of the group that has over 600 children in their charge, helping with their care. And finally, I want to wish everyone a good Father's Day, and to remind you that we'll gather on June 27th for the opportunity to hear Shira Klein, and I hope that people will register for that webinar. We look forward to seeing you again on our programs, and just to remind you that your support and your participation is greatly appreciated. A good day. Shalom u'lehitraot. Do widzenia.